All right, it's been a while since this was requested, but it is time, Jeff. We are going to break down the entire line of Raid Gladiator Anti Spinning rods. Now, we did this same breakdown on the Gladiator Anti Casting models. We are going to do a full breakdown of the spinning. This is one of my favorite lineup of rods, both casting and spinning. There are some very special rods in this batch. A lot of these rods have kind of been like the go-to strolling rod for a lot of pros. So we're just gonna break it down, let you guys know all about the Raid Gladiator Anti lineup of spinning rods. So if you'd like to geek out on some just cool rod topics, let's have some fun. Join along. Welcome to the Hookup Tackle.
Oh, what a stud.
Yeah. Look at that.
That was sick.
Cheers, my friends. Happy Sunday. All right, guys, some breaking news. What's new this week at the Hookup Tackle?
What a beautiful post-spawn fish.
Look at that.
Look at that cut on that.
That's a nice fish.
Welcome back, my friends. I am Ben with the Hookup Tackle, a tackle otaku on Instagram, being joined by my best friend in the entire world, Jeffrey the King. Jeff,
Welcome.
how are you today?
Hello, sir. It's been 6 months in the making.
Yeah.
When we did the casting
So
models of
Jeff
these.
and I are sitting around today like, all right, let's make a rod video. Like, what rod video? I'm like, well, I think we still need to make the Gladiator spinning rod video. He's like, when was that? I'm like, it's like 6 months ago that we did the casting video.
We're a little late.
Sorry
Whoopsie.
for the slacking. But here we are.
Here we
And
are,
I'm
baby.
kind of glad we waited, because
We have all the
had
models.
we had done it, the rod in my hands wouldn't have even been out yet.
That's
So there's a new offering in this line that rounds it out to, I want to say 8 models?
7?
4, 5, 6, like I said, 7 models. And it's a beautiful lineup of rods. It's a very interesting lineup of rods. So this will be very insightful for a lot of you guys who either A, are interested in the Raid lineup, or B, just curious about what other options are out there that maybe you're not hearing a lot about. And Raid definitely gets less, I would say, hype than some other rod brands in the US specifically, because we're the only ones that have them. So we're the only hype machine, right? So this will be really fun to break this rod lineup down and hopefully shed some light on what these rods do. Now, really quick before we get to the lineup and go model by model, just a very quick overcap on what Raid Gladiator Anti is all about. So Anti basically means exactly what it's saying. This is kind of the anti-rod of the high-end Japanese rods, right? So if you look at a lot of the JDM brands, Megabass, Depths, Daiwa, Shimano, most of their rods are built with tournament anglers in mind. They kind of start in the tournament world and then they kind of spread down, right? And so many of them are getting hyper focused on specific techniques, right? So this one rod is perfect for mid strolling, this is for hover strolling, and this is for drop shot, this is for Neko rig, and this is for spinnerbait, and this is for walking topwater, right? They're hyper focused specific rods, which is super dope, because if you want the very best one rod for this one lane, those rods exist now, right? Well, Kanamori wanted to create a lineup of rods within Raid that was kind of the opposite of that, right? If you're a shore fisherman, if you're a kayak fisherman, if you're a co-angler, or even if you're a front of the boater that doesn't want to have 42 rods, and you want or you need one rod to do the most possible applications that it can do, this is the lineup of rods that was designed to do that. So the word anti kind of means the opposite of that super niched rod, this is designed to give the max versatility, right? So the most use possible per rod. So as we break down these rods, there's going to be a lot of crossover as far as what they can and can't do, because they're built to be kind of a wide range, a wide variety, hard bait, soft bait, right? So keep that in mind as we go through it. Also, just a couple other quick things. All of the Gladiator Anti are built with a kind of a 4-axis cross weave carbon fiber build. So very similar to something that you would see in, Shimano X Pride, or, the Poison series, Destroyer P5, Steez AGS. That same kind of cross weave graphite is going to be found in here as well. Same 3-year warranty that you guys are familiar with Megabass. So if it breaks in year 1, for your replacement, breaks in year 2 or 3, you're going to pay 40% of retail. So the same warranty that you guys are used to. Final thing, most of these rods have a stinger tip or a carbon tip to them. Now, if you are used to seeing stinger tip rods, or maybe you've had stinger tip rods in the past, basically what that means is you have this crossweave graphite going up the length of the rod, and then instead of it going all the way to the tip, it ends at a certain point, and then there's a solid or a hollow carbon tip that's there, and that carbon tip has a little extra flex. It has a little faster response, so it gives you a little bit more sensitivity, a little bit different motion. But one of the downsides to carbon tips is they tend to break very easily, especially if you high stick the rod. So if you ever get into a situation where your rod is kind of up at, a 12 o'clock angle, or even like at a reverse angle when you set the hook, or you're going to boat flip a fish, a lot of times when that tip bends, if it has too much torque at the top, it snaps, right? So something Raid wanted to do is, obviously this lineup of rods is built for shore guys, built for kayak guys that aren't going to be able to have a whole rod locker full of spare rods, right? They needed to make sure these were strong. So what Raid does with their stinger tips is, most brands usually go 10 to 12 inches of stinger tip, right? So usually it would go the first couple of guides, or maybe to the third guide, and then the rest is rod. What Raid does is they will do the standard, and then they usually go at least 1, if not 2 more full guides down. So the actual stinger tip is blending into the rod. And then with most of them, they will do a carbon fiber external as well, to reduce chipping, to reduce anything that may happen to a little delicate tip at the top. So you get the benefit of a stinger tip, but you get the strength of not having one, which is very, very cool for these style rods. So let's dive in and start going through the lineup, Jeff. So I'm going to go through this lengthwise, okay? I'm going to start at the longest rod and work to the shortest rod, okay? So that's the easiest way, because the powers kind of jump all over the place, so this will make the most sense. So in my hands happens to be their newest rod. This is the Navigator 74. So this is a 7-foot 4-inch medium light plus S, which means plus a stinger tip, okay? Lure rating 1/8 ounce to 1/2 ounce, okay? This rod, if I had to describe this rod, I would describe this rod as a Flissa and a Windbuster had a baby, okay? So it is pretty parabolic the way a Windbuster is, but it's pretty soft at that top end, and then you get that stinger tip addition also. This is going to be your kind of all-around use rod, really designed as a rod for mid-strolling, that you can also do Texas rig, light jig, Neko rig. You could throw a little jerk bait. You can do all kinds of stuff on this rod, but the length is going to be better for more open water casting. So if you need to cast out further distances from shore, if you wanted one of these for, open water lake fishing, something like that, be a great hair jig rod, Okashira screw head, all the stuff that you would be throwing now probably on a Flissa or a Steez the One or something like that. You're just going to get a little bit more power in the backbone and a little bit softer tip at the same time, because you're going to get that stinger tip. So it kind of blends the two worlds together into this rod. It's a really, really beautiful rod, really nice rod. So that's the Navigator 74. That's rod number 1. Okay, rod number 2 is the Power Nose. So this is a 7-foot heavy with a stinger tip. Okay, so you're gonna notice a different grip. Now all the rods from here on out are gonna have this tapered front grip. Okay, so I should have mentioned that the Navigator had a different blunt grip, and it is ferruled at the grip section. So now they're gonna have more of a traditional taper where your hand's going to sit in front of the reel and taper down. So this rod, again, is a heavy action rod. So it's a very, very powerful rod, but it has a stinger tip. So you still get this lightness of movement. So this is going to be an excellent option for throwing maybe some heavier line where you still need to present a soft plastic really finessey, right? So maybe you need to throw a jig, a free rig, a Texas rig, maybe a weightless Senko, something that needs little precise movements where maybe it's important to have that stinger tip so you can get that lightness. But if you're throwing heavy braid or even some straight fluoro, maybe you need to go 14 or 16 pound or 30 or 40 pound braid. You have a strong, heavy powered rod to be able to hit fish hard and pull them away from cover without worrying about breaking your rod. Just to spec it out for you, it's 7 foot heavy, solid tip, half ounce lure rating. Max PE is 2.0, so it's going to put you somewhere in that 30 to 40 pound range. That's what they built the rod for. Okay, so for heavier spin style fishing, it's kind of a very unique rod. The only other rod that's really in this category is kind of that TS Destroyer spinning rod. But what that doesn't have is that doesn't have the stinger tip on it. Okay, so if you need it to still be finessey while having the power nose is a great option. Okay, up next is probably our best seller in this line up to now. I think the Navigator will end up taking it over, but this one's always going to kind of be right there. And this is the Gladiator Anti Stride. This is a 6'11" medium light spin with the stinger tip. Okay, so 1/8 to half ounce lure rating. You're going to find that that lure rating is going to pretty much be there for all of these rods. Again, it's going to have that solid tip at the end. This rod really has kind of become the strolling rod of the lineup. So you can mid stroll, you can hover stroll. It's medium light, so you could do nose hook drop shot. You could do little finessey jigs. You could do little, Kitech on a ball head type stuff. But it's also going to have the flexibility of being able to throw some hard baits as well. And since the lure rating goes all the way to half ounce, you could throw something like a 110 Junior, a Pointer 78, even a 110. Any of that stuff throws well on here. The bend is relatively fast, but it bends pretty decently through the middle. Okay, so you're gonna have, kind of right through the middle, you're gonna have that softness, but then it gets pretty fast and powerful down here in the end. So you've got still enough power to pull fish away from cover, but a soft enough and delicate enough rod to really give precise movements to your bait, whether it's on the bottom or strolling. Now, one of the reasons why stinger tips are so popular in Japan for strolling, and obviously becoming a very popular thing here as well, is, a lot of times we're throwing a bait like, say, a 5-inch Sakamata shad or a 6-inch Sakamata shad or a 6.5-inch fish roller, right? And you're throwing it on maybe a 1/4 ounce or 3/16 ounce jig head, 3/0 hook. Well, that's not a delicate bait, right? That overall weight of that bait is half ounce, maybe even 3/4 of an ounce. We probably want to throw it to some 14 pound or at least 12 pound or maybe 16 pound leader, maybe 20 or 30 pound braid. Like, this isn't super finesse fishing, right? So we need a rod that still has some strength, but having that slower tip allows you, as you move it, every time that tip bends, it's allowing that bait to roll, right? So when that rod is going like this and bending slowly but controlled, that bait is going dunk, 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 right? If you just have a straight carbon rod and it's too fast up top, you're getting, this shake, and the bait's just kind of, it's moving, but it's not necessarily doing this very controlled side to side. So this style rod is really what you're after if you want precise control and distinct movements left and right. Okay, so that's the Stride. Okay, another one that's super popular when you need something lighter is the Sidekick. Okay, so this is a 6-7 light, again, with the stinger tip. So, again, basically built exactly like the Stride. Okay, so lure rating is a 16th to 3/8, so slightly less here because you're in a true light power. Again, you're going to have that stinger tip at the end over here. This is going to be a better option if you guys are throwing a lot of like hover shot, lighter weight stuff. So like true Neko rig, you know, lighter strolling. Maybe you're strolling a 3-inch or a 4-inch bait, like a little fish roller, little light 1-ounce head. Then a rod like this would be absolute money. Because it's light, it's going to bend through the middle, so you can see it's got a pretty parabolic bend all the way down to the first guide. It's bending, so you get a nice controlled curve. So as a hard bait rod, it's also going to be an excellent option there as well. So if you need something lighter, Sidekick is a great option. Okay, and then these next two rods are built with hard baits in mind. Okay, so if you're like, dude, screw that strolling thing, I don't want to hear another thing about strolling, I just want to put a jerk bait on or a little crankbait on and go, then one of these next two might be perfect for you. So this is the 6.5 medium spin. This is the spin border. Now this is a rod that Griff loves. He's been talking about this rod for quite some time, and even though it's not built for it, he does use it as a strolling rod from time to time. But this is a better rod for something like, say, a picro, or, you know, little finessey bait, smaller finessey hard baits, smaller jerk baits, little light top water baits, maybe more traditional soft plastics like a little wacky rig or, you know, light Texas rig, something like that. You can see the bend's going to be pretty parabolic and controlled all the way through that rod. So as I push down, the rod gives, it almost has that 2-in-1 action similar to like a P5. So really, again, kind of built to absorb a lot of shock and head shake and power from fish. Would be a great option. Again, it's short, it's 6.5, and it's a medium, and it's parabolic. So an amazing option for shore guys, or, you know, anytime you're in a place where you need to be close range, you need a smaller rod to just, you know, make little smaller casts. Versus being in a big open water area where you're just trying to bomb some huge cast. This is going to be a nice, short, controlled, easy to use feather light rod. All right, and then staying in the same realm, just going a 1 power lighter is the Defender. So now we're to a 6.3 and we're to a light. So a 6.3 light spin, 16th to 1/4 ounce here. So you're getting lighter in the rod, but same exact basic design build as the last one. You've got that nice smooth parabolic bend through the middle. And again, it's a light, but it's still powerful. And it's powerful because it is that cross weave graphite. So it's going to be similar in power to what you'd think of in like maybe like an F1, F1.5 in a megabass to give you a comparable style rating. Not overly light, not overly whippy, but nice and controlled, and still giving you some butt section so you can really control fish on really small baits. So if you want to throw smaller hard baits, not do it in a bait finesse manner, this would be a great option for you. All right, and then finally is the Anti-Fixer. Now this is a 6'1" ultralight with a stinger tip. Okay, so now we're getting to the lightest power, but adding the stinger tip back in. Lure rating 1/32 to 3/16. Okay, so we've really come down here. This is going to be a nice one for the really, really light strolling stuff. So this is, you know, hover strolling a little 2 or 3 inch thing. If you're Jeff, you're probably throwing your little bug bait on this, right? Unweighted bug bait.
My KKK.
Perfect. So that kind of style, you know, lighter, weightless plastic, anything like that, this is going to be an amazing rod for that. If you're throwing traditional strolling, it's going to be a little underpowered, right? You're going to probably want to go up to one of the previous ones that we talked about. But you can see it's got that really delicate light stinger tip, but again, that stinger tip is going to come down at 2 extra guides, have a wrapping on it, so it's still going to be strong while delivering you a really delicate, beautiful rod. That's the Fixer. There you go, Jeff.
Oh, yeah.
One less Fixer in the world.
Oh, dude.
Does that feel like it?
That's a bug bait rod.
Yeah, I mean, you would know.
Feels solid, you know, in hand.
Yeah. Yeah, solid. Super.
What's that new dice bait they've got? The one way. Weightless one way. with
Weightless
this guy.
one way with that. That would be a sick dice rod, actually, though.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, if you wanted to throw an unweighted
Weightless?
dice that nobody is actually doing, everybody's putting on a drop shot. But if you wanted to do that, that would probably be the rod to do it on.
Yeah.
It is pretty sweet. All right, guys, so that is a wrap on the Gladiator Anti lineup of rods. I hope that was insightful. Hopefully that was a good breakdown. If I missed anything, if I didn't answer a question that you had on any of those rods, please drop it down below. I'd love to make sure that I can explain the lineup as much as possible. So please, any questions at all, drop it down below. I will get answers for you. We'll put a link to the rods in the description. There's some videos on the page too. You can kind of deep dive through there. And of course, you can hit me on Instagram DM anytime you have rod questions. I'm happy to dive down any rabbit hole with you guys. Make sure we get the right rods in your hands. Jeff, favorite model?
Spin boarder.
Spin boarder?
Yeah. It's the only rod that I've really used for the stroll.
Okay.
And I liked it a lot.
You liked it.
I'm curious about the stride.
I think the stride's going to be more your speed now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to try the stride. So.
Yeah. So you've been throwing a lot of that bigger,
Yes.
larger size
Only
strolling
size,
stuff.
yeah.
So I think you're going to dig that. But the spin boarder, even though not built,
Not built for it. It works.
it's a great one for
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So I think you guys are going to be really, really happy with the diversity of these rods and how many different things they can do. And they really are built to handle a lot of different stuff. I literally use a couple of the casting rods every day, and the casting rods are the same way. You can throw anywhere from a light little bait to a big bait. They handle everything in between. So again, if you have any questions, holler at me. Enjoy the lineup. Thank you guys for giving us time to watch the videos, and we will see you again soon. Peace out, my friends. Cheers.